Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Friday afternoon. Hopefully, you're having a great day, and I know you're excited for a big weekend coming up. Saturday, Sunday, just around the corner. It does unfortunately look like we're going to be seeing those scattered showers and thunderstorms again over the course of the weekend, but you know what? That's the way summertime goes here in South Louisiana. You kind of got to expect those showers and thunderstorms. And fortunately, over the last couple of months, I was kind of digging back in some of the records here. June, we finished out, I believe it was 0.1 degree or below normal, and for July we ended up 0.1 degree above normal. So this is one of the most normal summers we've seen. Now the rainfall's been a little bit on the high side, but that's usually no problem during the summertime because it does help to keep our temperatures down just a few degrees. But there's not a whole lot of rain out there right now. We've got partly cloudy skies. Your temperature now at 86 degrees. Feels more like 93. Those heat index values will probably get up in the low 100s, but shy of any heat advisories this time around. Dew point at 73, humidity 66%, and our winds are currently out of the west at around 8 miles per hour. So as we look at the radar, we do have plenty of shower and thunderstorm activity out here in the offshore waters, but we're starting to see some new development here over extreme southeastern Louisiana. We'll go ahead and pull up the Hammond radar and put that into motion, kind of give you an idea of what's going on there. You got those showers kind of lifting their way off toward the northeast, so that should bypass Morgan City, but we'll probably see some additional showers and thunderstorms developing with the daytime heating as we go through time. On the Lake Charles radar, again, we've got those showers and thunderstorms kind of drifting back out into the offshore waters, but I did want to lift things a little bit farther inland up here towards Shreveport. Not a lot on the radar now there, nor over at Fort Polk, but there is a frontal boundary that's going to edge into northwestern Louisiana over the course of the weekend, and that will most likely keep our rain chances a little bit more on the high side over the next couple of days. Elsewhere, though, there's the rains that are over the Arklatex. The frontal boundary is right there near Texarkana, maybe Memphis to Texarkana along that I-30, I-40 line there, stretching down to about Dallas. So we're going to see some moisture pooling there ahead of that, and that should keep our chances for showers and thunderstorms roughly in that 50 to 60% chance range over the next several days. A lot of sunshine, though, peeking through at Breaux Bridge and Henderson, looking good there at I-10 at Louisiana Avenue, and then farther up to the north, Opelousas, not a bad day there. Alexandria, you're in pretty good shape too. It's kind of hazy, but other than that, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds, and Boaters got a pretty decent day out there, except for around some of those showers and thunderstorms in the offshore waters. But if you're in some of the inland canals or lakes and bays, you're probably in good shape. Winds will be light out of the west today, 5 to 10 knots, and seas running about 1 to 2 feet. Do remember, though, those winds and seas will be higher around those scattered thunderstorms. So here's what we've got on the big picture, and one thing that really kind of shows up here on the main image is we've got this frontal boundary that's kind of draped here. Sorry about the telestrator. Doesn't like to work with me very well, but there's that frontal boundary right about in that area, and eventually it's going to sag a little farther to the south. Unfortunately, some of that cooler, drier air that's covering much of the Midwest is not going to make it all the way down to the Gulf Coast. In fact, as that front kind of stalls out here over South Louisiana and the Mississippi-Alabama Gulf Coast, more than likely it'll be a focal point for showers and thunderstorms. We'll keep an eye on that if it surges a little farther toward the south into the Gulf waters, because occasionally you get a low that will develop along that. And I think that kind of a scenario is really going to be a little bit more likely over parts of the East Coast. You see a lot of cloudiness. You probably heard about all the heavy rains that were out over New York and in New England. So this has been kind of a persistent area here along a front with a low pressure area. Right now, there are some indications you could see some tropical formation maybe out in the Atlantic and then pushing out toward the east, but still a bit inconclusive of whether or not this is just going to be a regular old low pressure area or we're going to see some kind of tropical system firing up. Real quick tour along the northern Gulf Coast. Pretty day again there at Panama City Beach. Some gorgeous skies, some gorgeous water there as well. And then looking over toward Orange Beach, Alabama, starting to get some of those thunderstorms, or at least the sea breeze is kicking in from the Gulf, and that's going to push inland and bring some showers and thunderstorms there. Dauphin Island, nice quiet day this afternoon. Same goes for Cocodrie, a little bit of cloud cover, but you're probably going to see some scattered storms developing down into the southern parts of Louisiana. A little bit more gray there off to our west over toward Bayou Vista near Galveston Bay. Not a bad day, but you can see there are some showers in and around that area. And that's pretty well showing up on our Gulf satellite here. You see the overcast skies there over southeast Texas, including around Galveston Bay. Here locally, we've got partly cloudy skies. And then there, looking off to the east of Orange Beach, there were some showers and thunderstorms kind of firing up. But really, for the most part, the Gulf waters are looking fine. There were some showers out here over the southern part of the Bay of Campeche. That's actually attached to kind of a tropical wave that extends over the Pacific there south of Mexico. And then the East Coast satellite, again, I think we're going to talk a little bit about this as we go through the show here today, but I really think there's going to be some chances for some development out here, perhaps off the Carolina coast and then out into the middle part of the Atlantic. Doesn't look like it's going to happen in the next couple of days, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a yellow blip go up on that 7-day forecast for the National Hurricane Center somewhere over the western part of the Atlantic. Farther down to the south, pretty day over Central America, Guatemala, the Yucatan, and then back toward El Salvador and getting into Honduras and Nicaragua. Pretty nice day. Got some thunderstorms in southern Nicaragua over toward Costa Rica. Panama looking fine here. Got a little bit of a tropical wave, though, that's currently drifting its way off toward the west, right about in there, and that's going to produce some showers and thunderstorms from Jamaica southward down into portions of Central America. And then as you get out more into the Caribbean, really pretty quiet. You got another tropical wave that's kind of showing up right about in here south of the Dominican Republic, and that stretches down into Colombia and Venezuela. And there's another tropical wave that's right over here. This was the one that we were kind of watching for the possibility of development. It really hasn't changed a whole lot since yesterday, but we'll continue to track that moisture as it moves off toward the west-northwest. That should lift north of Puerto Rico and eventually get into the areas of the Bahamas toward the latter part of the weekend, and it could get sucked up into that trough that's off the east coast where we're seeing the possibility maybe of some development there east of the Carolinas. So at this point, the tropical satellite that we look at over the Atlantic Ocean is showing a couple of more waves over the far eastern Atlantic, and really what I'm more interested in, not only that little wave that's there north of Puerto Rico, northeast of Puerto Rico, but there's some really big waves that are going to be coming off of the African coast here over the next several weeks, and that is where we start to really focus our attention as we get into the month of August. And a couple of those tropical waves, I know those are way inland, but they're going to emerge off the Gulf waters, and I think they're going to have a better chance for some development as we get into not next week, but maybe the following week. The models are kind of active with stuff going on out there, but at least for the next 7 days, National Hurricane Center is not expecting any tropical development. Although I wouldn't be surprised to come back here on Monday or Tuesday and maybe see something out in this particular area. That would be probably the best chance of seeing one of those yellow X's coming up there over the next few days. So let's look at the models, and I'm going to start here with the the Euro model, and this is the one that ran very, very early this morning. And as we kind of advance it here, there's really not much going on, but you probably are noticing there one of those lows that's coming off the East Coast. So again, this particular area here is one of the regions that I'll be watching. This is actually for tomorrow morning. So the Euro calling for a couple of maybe waves that could move along a front. Who knows? Will it become a tropical system? More than likely this one will not, but out here a little bit farther to the south, I think those waters are warm enough we could get something going. A lot of wind shear at this point, but really not expecting a whole lot there over the next couple of days or so. So let's go ahead and move it a little bit farther along here, and we'll go ahead and take it through the end of the weekend, and then we go into the early part of next week. A little bit of a low pressure area still along the front. Let me go back a frame here. You see this over parts of the Gulf Coast. That frontal boundary, again, is something that we'll watch out for, but at this point, if we get a little low to develop on that, more than likely it wouldn't be tropical. It's just going to be helping to keep the rain chances up just a little bit. And we'll go ahead and push it a little bit farther into motion. We start to get to Monday and Tuesday of next week, and you see a bit of a low there east of the Carolinas, 1016 on the pressure. That's not real significant, so At this point, it doesn't look like it would be anything tropical, but the moisture associated with our wave that is northeast of Puerto Rico is more than likely going to start to move into this particular area here. But at the same time, there's going to be a pretty good trough off the east coast. So anything that would be in here would most likely kind of curve back toward the northeast. So as long as we have this troughiness going on in the eastern half of the country, basically anything that's coming out of the Atlantic should be blocked and turned back off toward the northeast, and it wouldn't affect the Gulf. But if you get something to possibly develop in these particular areas, we could have some issues there along the Gulf Coast. But right now, it doesn't look like we're going to see any issues when it comes to development there. So let's go ahead and take it all the way through the end of the week. And again, you see a couple of more lows developing there off the Carolina coast. This is a week from today now. And now you're starting to see a little bit more of a low developing here over the middle part of the Atlantic Ocean too. So that's something we're going to be watching out for to maybe kind of slide in this particular direction over the next several days. And as we push this back into the motion once again, we'll take it through the middle part of next week. And you kind of see that area of low pressure trying to spin up there east of Florida. That's part of that tropical wave that's going to be coming off the African coast. And right now, with the trough in place, that should turn it back off toward the northeast. I'm going way out here. This is going in almost 2 weeks from today, but it is showing some tropical weather perhaps going into that part of the month. So we're really going to be looking far out into the future here with all of our different models. Let's go ahead and take a look at the GFS. We'll go all the way back here. Just kind of rewind it here to tomorrow morning. And you see a little bit of a low kind of coming off the east coast and then pushing off toward the east-northeast. Very similar to what we're seeing with the Euro model. Will these become tropical? Will they? Maybe. We'll see. One there off the Carolina coast there coming up for about a week from today looks a little bit more interesting. While what's different about the GFS from the Euro is we're really not seeing a whole lot of development out over the middle part of the Atlantic until we get into the middle part of the following week. So I'm stopping this here a week and a half from today. So this is not next Wednesday. This is the following Wednesday. And you see a couple of little blips that are out in the middle part of the Atlantic, but nothing that looks real significant. Let's pull our way over toward the Canadian model. Go ahead and roll that all the way back, hit play. And again, very similar to the Euro, we are seeing those low pressure areas perhaps developing there off the east coast of the U.S. So this is going to be that area that we would be watching. Also, again, this is for Monday. You see there's a little bit of a low there right along the northern Gulf Coast. That might be something associated with the front that's going to be stalling there, but at this point it doesn't look like it's something that's going to be anything significant, just kind of a rainmaker. And as we take the Canadian model farther out, again, a couple of those tropical waves over the Atlantic might be showing some signs of some development. This particular model goes out a full 10 days. You see some of those waves now starting to come off the African coast, and that was actually pushing in possibly some development there off the African coast coming up about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. This is Monday, August the 11th. So again, we're looking at the next about 2 weeks here when it comes to any kind of a tropical development. So the final one, we'll go ahead and look at the Icon model, which is the German model. And that one, as we roll it back here, this one only goes out 7 days. But if you look there, you're seeing those lows kind of parading along that front from the east coast and then pushing out maybe over toward Bermuda. But right now it doesn't look like anything significant. But then if you start to look a little bit farther off toward the east, out in the middle part of the Atlantic Ocean, kind of similar to some of the other ones, where the possibility of low pressure starting to develop. And as far as the track of where these would go, most of them are pretty similar, showing a west-northwest track. But this one here on the Euro, or rather on the Icon model, I have a feeling this one might get picked up by that trough out in the middle part of the Atlantic, and then that would push it off toward the north. But again, you see there's another low that's maybe off the Carolina coast. So even though there's nothing really significant that's showing up on any of the models, you do have to remember that we are going into August, and usually we have a number of systems during the month of August. So looking at the extended forecast. This is starting Monday of next week and going through the following Monday. So this would be the 4th through the 11th of August. And the Euro-Tropical Formation forecast has kind of a bullseye there off the Carolina coast. So that's, again, a lot of the models are showing at least some low pressure developing in those areas. But will these actually become tropical systems? And you still have a little bit of development chances there over the middle part of the Atlantic. But let's go ahead, since there's really not a lot to talk about, let's go ahead and look a little bit farther out into the middle part of the Atlantic, and this is taking us now going into August 11th through the 18th. So this is week 2, and you can see there's a little bit more chance for some development there off of the west coast of Africa. And as far as that is concerned, we're going to be seeing that particular wave that could become something over the next several days. And if that tracks off toward the west-northwest, we could be moving toward the northern part of the Caribbean, over Virgin Islands or maybe Puerto Rico. And again, the question I've got down here is talking about the cyclonic development in the Atlantic area, kind of like what we're seeing, and wondering if we're going to see a hurricane form as we go into that following week. Well, right now, it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing any development, but I will say, based on climate and based on the way August goes, having something spotlighted in that particular area would normally work its way off toward the west, and you could have something getting close to the northern part of the Caribbean islands somewhere there toward the middle part of the month. So right now there's nothing imminent, but as we get deeper and deeper into August, there's going to be a better chance that we will see tropical storms and hurricanes. So hopefully that answers your question there. We do know that August is usually a pretty busy month, and particularly there over the northern part of the Caribbean and the Gulf waters, those temperatures are quite warm. You know, you need 80-degree water, but some of these temperatures are over 90 now over parts of the Gulf waters and the western part of the Caribbean, and that's just a measurement of what the temperature is at the surface of the ocean. But when you start to look a little bit deeper, where you get those darker red shades, that's what we call the tropical cyclone heat potential. So not only is the water temperature at the surface very, very warm, let's say above 80 degrees, but these areas that are shaded in red and black and even yellow indicate how deep that 80-degree water goes. So if you have a tropical system moving over this, it tends to stir up the waters. You get the big waves. It churns up the water from below the surface. But if the water below the surface is still well above 80 degrees, it's just going to be a lot more fuel for a tropical system to work with. So if we get something that starts to work into the Caribbean or portions of the southern or eastern Gulf, that is going to be concerning because the heat potential there is sky high. Fortunately, there's a lot of wind shear out there, although it's pretty low over much of the Gulf waters in the western part of the Caribbean. And it picks up a little bit there off the African coast. But the areas of development there, stretching from the Carolinas out into the middle part of the Atlantic, also has a lot of high wind shear. So that might be an indication of why some of those lows that drift off the Carolina coast and start to roll out into the Atlantic really don't seem to be strengthening. They might get down to 10-12, maybe 10-09 on the millibars there, but that is really kind of pushing it when it comes to a tropical system. Usually if you're under 10-12 or under 10-10, you might end up with a tropical depression. So these are borderline, probably just generally cold core, low pressure areas that will roll along the front. The other thing that inhibits tropical development is Saharan dust. And there's been a lot of it over the last couple of months, which is normal. May, June, July, you usually see a lot of Saharan dust. And then by the time you reach August and September, the pattern really relaxes and you don't see a whole lot of that. Hence the reason why we have more tropical systems in August and September, because the two major inhibiting factors, wind shear and dust, really tend to relax on average as we head into the peak of the hurricane season. So there's a look at what we talk about when the general flow of a hurricane season would go. We're now at August the 1st here, so this is about where we are right here, and that's a significant jump from what we normally see in June and July, and it's going to be halfway through the month, we're going to be here, and by the end of the month, we're going to be way up here. So things really do tend to ramp up during the month of August, and as far as our season so far, we're actually pretty close to what would be considered a normal season. In fact, we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule. We've already had 3 named storms. Chantal was the only one that we had during the month of July, that moving inland over the Carolinas. But we haven't had any hurricanes yet either. And usually our first hurricane comes on average around August the 11th. And normally we have 4 named storms in August, and normally we have 4 named storms in September. But 2 of those become hurricanes in August, and on average about 3 of them become hurricanes during the month of September. So really, we're still expecting anywhere between 13 and 19 storms. Now, this is NOAA's forecast from earlier in the year. And then, of course, the Colorado State University pinpoints us as 16, which is just 2 above what would be the average for a hurricane season. But the folks at CSU are going to bring an update here on Wednesday, so I'll have that for you coming up next week. But remember, about 70% of the hurricane season still happens, at least the activity still happens after August the 1st. Usually June, July is pretty quiet. And then usually about this time is when people start saying, oh, the hurricane season's a bust, and then it goes gangbusters in a couple of weeks. So things can change really, really fast, which is the reason for the last several months I've been saying, make sure you're hurricane ready, and these are the things that you can do to prepare yourself now. You need some of these items when hurricanes and tropical storms come our way, and this is a good time to grab all of those things and get these basics out of the way so that when we indeed do have a tropical system threatening the Acadiana region or parts of Louisiana, at least you'll have this part done. And then you can start focusing more on picking things up around the house, boarding up if you would need to, or putting a hurricane evacuation plan into place. But for the basics, this is the stuff that you're going to need for at least 3 days worth of survival, especially if we lose power and things like that. But be hurricane ready. All this stuff is available at the stores right now, and you should be able to take care of this list over the course of the weekend. I want you all to be safe. So there's a look at our Let's Talk Tropics. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also turn on those notifications. And remember, you can hear my forecasts on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And also follow my social media pages in case there's any updates over the course of the weekend. And of course, a big thanks to everyone who's already subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today, and a huge thanks to all the new subscribers that have come along over the past month or so. I'm meteorologist Dave Baker. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday.